Hello, I'm getting ready to pour some sidewalks and perhaps top off part of the roadway in my Polar Express traditional O-gauge layout. I've got a sidewalk that I've laid out using pave tape that crosses over to the front of the church, then past the church, up the little slope, and then over to the boarding platform. And I'm going to try and get that poured, and then with whatever smooth it I have left over, I'm going to plan to do some touch-ups on the road, add some paving in a few places on the road. We'll see how far I get with what I have. First thing I need to do is to mix up the Smooth It, and this mixture of Smooth It is pretty straightforward. It's a simple mixture of 2 cups of the Smooth It product that you see in the yellow and black carton there, 2 cups of Smooth It, and 1 cup of cold water. Now, one of the things I've learned after using this a number of times is that it really helps for the water to be really cold. So what I'm doing, or what I've been doing the last few times, is adding a few ice cubes to the water when I fill the container that I get my water from. Add a few ice cubes to it and let those melt, and as soon as they're melted, the water's chilled down about as far as it needs to be, and then use that water in my mixture to mix up the Smooth It and prepare it to lay. I'm also going to be, as I said, trying to touch up the roads in a few places, so we'll see how far I get. My first step is going to be to mix up the Smooth It, so I'm going to pause now and I'll come back once I've got that mixed and I'm ready to pour. Okay, we have the Smooth It mixed up and we are ready to begin to pour. That means that I need to get my product over to where I'm going to be putting it down, and that will be a little bit crowded because I've operating under close quarters here, but we'll do our best. So here's where we're putting it down. I've got sidewalks laid out here, and I've got some pave tape laid down that will provide the edging for it. And the Smooth It, I'm going to start by spooning out into the area that I want to pave. I'm trying to avoid wasting to the extent that I possibly can, although some wastage is inevitably going to occur. But to the extent that I can maybe guide it into space, I'll have less wastage than I usually do. And I have to admit, having wastage is one of those things that bothers me, but I always seem to have some that ends up setting up before I'm ready for it to set up. That gets me a little bit aggravated, but there's not much you can do about that. In each package of pave tape, they provide one of these tools for smoothing the Smooth It out. And since I've gone through quite a few packages of pave tape over the months since I've been working on my layout, I have quite a few of these tools that I can use to guide the Smooth It down into the areas that I want to fill. Some of these areas are really small today, and that's going to cause me some problems. I can see that already. The stuff tends to set up on me faster than I can get it in place. Not much I can do about that. I just work as quickly as I can and try to stay ahead of it. And I don't want it falling over the edges too much if I can avoid that. So I'm trying to keep a fairly even pace here to get it spread. Right here, I'm trying to fill in a couple of little gaps, and it's not exactly going where I want it to go. So I'm going to have to spread it a little differently. And I may end up finding out that the only really way to fill this in exactly where I want it is going to be by doing some sanding after the fact and sanding it into the shape that I want it to be in. I don't want to have it dribbling around all over. So let's see how that goes. Okay, I'm ready to move beyond the church and start getting up the next level here. And let's see what happens with what I'm laying out there. This is a slope, pretty steep slope, and I'm hoping that the pave tape will smooth it in place on that slope. Get that out of the way. As we go. Really wants to set up quickly on me today. So I'll keep adding it in between the forms. Made out of pave tape. There we go. That's making some progress. Since this is a really narrow sidewalk here, it's really kind of tricky to get to smooth it in between the sides of the pave tape and not have it spilling out all over the place. But at the same time, I want to, between the forms, between the pave tape, have it completely filled. Sometimes the only thing you can do is put it down and then rely on coming back later with some sanding to get down to the real smooth surface that you want to do. And sanding is not really too difficult. It's just a matter of time and energy. It's using 220 grit sandpaper, and the 220 grit sandpaper will bring this down to the right level fairly easily. Now I'm at a point where I have to change my weapons here and use a different tool in order to come around and smooth it into this larger area here. I want this larger area here to be filled, and I'm already getting it setting up in some places too quickly for me. So I'm going to try to do a little more mixing with it, see if that'll save the day. You know what would be really handy right now? Would be a cordless microphone. That would be one of those things that might be worth the money to avoid having this stuff getting on the microphone cord and having that drag through it. I'm going to kind of guide that over there and see if we can finish at least getting this section in here filled in. Not much more to do here in this little section, and if I could just avoid having it set up on me for a few more minutes, we'll be there. Okay, now I'm going to use the tool the other way and move it back and forth a little bit here. There. Now, see if we can get it to guide back and fill in on the side there. There. Actually, I'm going to call that good for that spot, and I'm going to take the rest of what I have here and I'm going to lay it out into this area. I can put my spoon aside probably and just scrape the rest of it out of the container like this. It's kind of a thick, buttery, half melted butter consistency right now, and we're going to see if we can use this to cover a wider area. Here I've taken 3 of the tools that come with the Smooth It and welded them together with a bit of super glue, and I'm using that to cover a much wider area than I otherwise would be able to cover. And I want to move this back here and keep coming back and forth with this here. Try to get it to the edge, to fill in the edge of this area here. And I think we're just about there. There's going to be some places in here that are not going to be completely even, and I'm pretty hopeful that going to work with a bit of sanding will solve that problem for me. It's really starting to set up fast now, and so I don't have much more time to work with this. I try to move this out into the main roadway, and I'm going to try to smooth this out using a smaller tool again. And likewise on this end here, using the smaller tool, narrower tool, it's going to let me take the rest of this and feather it out onto the surface of the road. Pull this over a little bit here and pull this over a little bit here into the corner, and I'm about at the end of what I can do, because what's left here is pretty well setting up on me. So we'll feather that in there, feather that in there, and I think with a little bit of sanding the rest of this is going to come out, filling in where I want it to be. So that is the process. I'm going to take what's left of this in this little tool and also feather that into here. If I take this scraper, scrape it off, and then guide it along in here, I'm going to end up pretty close to an even pour. That's about the best I can do, because it's really getting stiff now at this point. Okay, so that's the process of using the Smooth It. The next step for me is going to be cleanup, which will take a little bit of time. Need to actually go out and dump this remainder outside, rinse it thoroughly, rinse all my utensils thoroughly, and dump the remainder of it in a little hole that I use for that purpose. But there you are. That's an illustration how we go about spreading the Smooth It. Thanks for watching. Please click the thumbs up below and like the video. Also, if you would, please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and feel free to share this with anyone else you know who might be interested in it. Thanks for watching.